Some things to look for. When we come back, we'll take a break. And we're going to start this discussion on podcast by Dr. Masha Heinz Marie. And let's just for a few minutes after before we continue.
Just a baby professor. So I don't organize the Department of Political Science, but I am in the department and doing a little bit of work. So I'm a transdisciplinary scholar, which means that I am disciplinarily unruly. I work between political science and gender studies, but I work more as a practitioner, as you rightly said, because I'm coming from performing these things and now talking about them through theory, and that's where I sit. So I just wanted to kind of contextualize that. What I'm sharing tonight is a piece of research that I just started to do and to pull together, because I think that as we're talking about democracy in Barbados, there may be a piece of this puzzle that we are missing. And so, like I said, this is something that I'm starting to think about and talk about, and I'm sharing it with you and your audience tonight for the first time. I don't know if I can control the slides. Perfect. So what I want to do tonight is talk and think about democracy in Barbados and its connections with other Commonwealth Caribbean countries in the context of where we are post-independence.
Yes.
Most of us would have gotten our independence in the 1960s and the 1970s. And these countries did well for a long time. That's the reality. And after the 1980s, we have to ask ourselves if the model that started out as our nationalist political project works, if it continues to work. And those are kind of some of the questions I'm asking tonight. And I'm talking and I'm thinking through St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica and Barbados for commonalities. So let's just keep it rolling here a bit. This book, Caribbean Charisma, I believe that everything that we need to know and understand about where we are in the Caribbean has already been written. We're not dealing with rocket science. For whatever reason, these are not the books that we're using in high school. They're not the books that we're using at Cape. I wonder if they're the books that we're using at the University of the West Indies. I'm not trying to sideswipe my colleagues, but I know the University of the West Indies at Cape Hill. That's where I studied. So there's never anything bad that I'm going to say. And at the same time, it seems as though the hill has gone a bit quiet. It's not the hill that I know and remember. But anyway, this book, Caribbean Charisma, I think has done a lot to talk and think about that traditional nationalist leader and some of those things that are left over and some of those things that we carry forward. So this idea of what we call the strong man leader, and in some cases, Eugenia Charles, and other cases, we have also had our strong women as well. And usually we glorify these strong leaders, but at the same time, there is a critique to be made. And that's kind of a little bit of what I want to get in with this presentation. So the way that I'm defining democracy in this presentation is the rule of the majority by the minority, which is usually, we traditionally hear that piece. But the piece that we leave off usually is for the benefit of the majority. So the minority rules the majority, but the minority rules the majority for the benefit of the majority. And I think that is very important to say. And if we use this definition of democracy and we ask ourselves today, how safe or how effective is our democratic project in the Caribbean, I am suggesting that we should find that project wanting. Now, I argue, and I'm going to suggest in this paper when I write it up, that the plantation was actually a democracy. And people will say, but what? How? Well, at the end of the day, the plantation is democratic from the perspective of if you remove the back piece of the statement for the benefit of the majority, and that you leave the more traditional understanding of democracy, which is that the majority rule the minority, the plantation meets that first criteria, right? And one of the ways that the plantation meets that criteria, or the major way that the plantation meets that criteria, is that it stratifies the population into two specific populations. Keep coming back to this, Marcia. We talked about it the last time. There's an undeserving population and there is a deserving population. So Massa's friends, Massa's neighbors, Massa's lodge brothers, whatever the case may be, all of these are different deserving populations, and then the rest of the the rest of the people who occupy the space are not even seen as human, and even if they are seen as human, they're not seen as deserving. So you if what I'm the argument that I'm making then is that if you just say that democracy is the rule of the majority over the minority, a plantation meets that criteria. Right? We move ourselves beyond plantation when we say that the majority rules the minority for the benefit of the majority.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is that we still very much have a plantation, and there are going to be some people who would see that plantation as democratic because they are not considering the needs of the majority. They are breaking the society down into the deserving and the undeserving. So there's this concept that I've written about, and I continue to talk and think about. I call it the politourgeoisie, and the politourgeoisie is different and unique from the bourgeoisie. Bourgeoisie individuals have that claim to ownership, that right to ownership, property, leadership, political leadership, because they possess land. There is some kind of transfer of power throughout dynasty and that kind of thing. But what we have operating in the Caribbean after our nationalist project, in many cases, is not a bourgeoisie. It is actually a politourgeoisie, a class of people who use the political system to become an elite. So they don't start out as bourgeoisie at all. They actually start out in quite the same circumstances of many of us in the Caribbean, but they're able to use our democratic processes. They're able to use our educational processes. They're able to use professions, and they convert that into personal political gain. So again, we see that the plantation character moving through, because yes, the minority are getting access to the political process, they're getting access to rulership, but they are not doing it for the benefit of the majority. Okay. We also see a cooptation of the Nationalist Independence Project. So when the Nationalist Independence Project starts, it is a socialist project. It is a project that is constructed around the 1930s riots. And what it is people are asking for a better place, a better stake of the Caribbean pie, whether it be access to land, access to education. There were a number of issues that were raised at that time, and those issues created the impetus for both labor parties in the Caribbean as well as political parties. So it was a project of the people, as you have said on this show before. But one of the mechanisms of the politourgeoisie is that they take that nationalist independence project and they use it, they take hold of it, they almost perform a coup of it. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes a space where they insert their needs and what it is that they want for themselves in the project. I don't know if people recognize the two faces, but what I'm trying to make the point in the two faces that I chose is that even with some of the leaders in the Caribbean who are recognized as good leaders or the best leaders, there has always been this friction between them holding on to their power and place as members of the bourgeoisie and using that space to advance the cause of the average person in the society. And if we ask the question, how does the bourgeoisie mobilize itself? How does it co-opt the power of the nationalist movement? How does it hold on to that power? What is the relationship with how they use democracy and that kind of thing? This is kind of where I start to think now about the political process as mobilization, as well as the political process in terms of the strategies that legitimate the bourgeoisie. And one of those strategies that I think is important and that we're not talking about enough is this idea of a kingmaker, which is a very important strategy of the bourgeoisie that was used to co-opt that nationalist project. So you remove the nationalist project from the masses of people on the ground and you concentrate it in these individuals who are using that process for narrow political gain. And this is what brings me to thinking and talking about how we see our system come under pressure from the bourgeoisie. And one of the things that we see happening is manipulation of the judicial system. And I'm talking about the judicial system here broadly. Again, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm talking at the level of analysis, right? Um, very little makes sense. And again, we've talked about, some of these stories that if you change the names, you could write a book and it would be good fiction. So we get, for example, if a court case goes through the court and there is some kind of judgment that is not acceptable. So remember, we heard after the GIS case, for example, the government was going to appeal. Yes. Right? Government never appealed, but it was said the government is going to appeal. In a recent case as well, we heard threats of somebody wanting to sue somebody that had brought a case. These things are scare tactics. They're scare tactics. They stop the average person, the masses of people, from wanting to use the judicial system, to challenge the power of the bourgeoisie, right? And I call it political gaslighting. And those two examples that I brought were from the Barbados case. But if we think about St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we can think about some of the activities that have happened there with women and girls, and how the court was mobilized to threaten those individuals who wanted to talk about their experiences of abuse into silence. So again, the argument that I'm making is that this system that I'm talking about and these tactics of the bourgeoisie are not only seen in Barbados alone, they are seen in St. Vincent, they're seen in Dominica, and this is why it is important to talk about our democratic project being in crisis, not just in the context of Barbados, but also in the context of the entire the Commonwealth Caribbean, or what we call the English-speaking Caribbean, although that is not an accurate term, and what we are seeing playing out across these islands. So we see things like, I gave a few more examples here from the GIS conversation, for example. So we see one person in the case of the government industrial school who doesn't come out on the right side of that issue. But then this individual wants to be on the other side of what is essentially the same issue in a different case. So really what we end up with is a political system that has no soul. There's very little integrity to go around. And what we are dealing with really is raw power. Okay, that's really what it comes down to. I'm gonna go on just in the interest of time. We see rancorous relations based on gender, color, and class. So again, we talk about this gender war that we have in the Caribbean. The men don't like the women don't like the men. No, that's not actually true. That's a mechanism that has been used to keep us divided since the plantation. And the only person that benefits from it is the rulers of plantation. Or when we come off of plantation and we're thinking about the post-nationalist period, the bourgeoisie benefits because we're so busy fighting with each other that we don't realize that the system is actually giving us both the same thing, and none of us are being seen as deserving publics. We can have color divisions being mobilized. So during the nationalist period, we had this conversation around black and white in the Caribbean and the divestment of assets based on racial color. But at the end of the day, we are still, and when I talk about we, I'm thinking, for example, of the people who would have worked on Draxall Plantation. Those we's are no more in possession of resources as they were under the white Drax plantation regime as they are now under our black nationalist bourgeoisie regime, right? And we also have divisions along the lines of class. I think one of the examples that we can think about that really brings this home is the 11 plus. And why up to this day we cannot get rid of it, because what it does is it keeps the rigid class strata established in our Barbadian society, right? Now, one of the other things that the bourgeoisie does is that it manipulates the electioneering machinery. Has to, can't not, because at the end of the day, if democracy is functional, we don't end up with these strong leaders who maintain power across long periods of time. Because we know, as sweet as it is, there's always sometimes a little breakup here and there, and a little breakup is good for the soul. So if democracy is allowed to continue, then it doesn't really it doesn't serve the purpose of the bourgeoisie. So you have to manipulate the electoral machinery. Now, I was watching the electoral office. I saw you guys had this conversation about this a couple of days ago on the show, and I was actually watching the electoral office from the time that Godfrey Hines took over. Um, and I think that this is where my work and my analyses always collide. The personal becomes political and the political becomes personal, right? Because at the end of the day, that individual happens to be my father. So I know them not only as a civil servant, not only as a quote unquote professional, but I know this individual in the sphere of the family and beyond. And I don't think that that it is a secret of what I think, right? And so at the end of the day, we go back to this lack of integrity, a system that is really a farcical system. It is the emperor without clothes, right? So you will have an individual who is responsible for the chief electoral office, but who at the same time has serious charges of family impropriety against them. This is how the system is set up. It becomes a joke, basically, is what a democracy under the bourgeoisie is. And then one man, one vote no longer counts within a bourgeoisie. So you have like the financiers of the parties, their votes become far more. Their votes become a block because their money buys votes, right? And this is a reality that we have had within the Caribbean from as far back as when we start to talk about corned beef and biscuit politics. The corned beef and biscuit has changed into other things, and we can talk about what some of those things are. So here now, I really want to start to get into this concept of the kingmakers. I'm also happy to say. So this idea of the idea of the kingmaker is not a new idea. It actually comes out of the ancient monarchies, where there was a lot of negotiation behind the scenes. Although we hear and we think and we talk about, the kings and queens coming out of family lineages and that kind of thing, if you watch old TV, 16th century and 17th century depictions and that kind of thing, you see the machinations that have to happen with the senates and the different feudal leaders and that kind of thing to make way for the king, right? And so the kingmaker has the same kind of concept. And the kingmaker that I'm talking about and thinking about in this piece of research is Hartley Henry. Hardy Henry starts his political career in the Caribbean in Barbados, in St. George South, on a Democratic Labour Party ticket. He doesn't win the seat, but it definitely becomes the beginning of a very interesting career. And when we talk about the way, for sure, and it comes out of his grounding in public relations generally. He is one of the founders of, I think, what is one of the most successful PR companies, again, in Barbados and the Caribbean, are Alhart PR. Some people may remember that name. So he eventually goes on throughout his career to become advisors to prime ministers and or party officials across the Caribbean. And like I said, tonight I'm focusing on Dominica, Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. Okay. He's known as a political strategist. He's also known as a deal maker and fixer. And I just defined, if we think of that ancient period, what is some of this kind of wheeling and dealing that is associated with politics. So what I want to do is talk and think a little bit about what I call the HH strategy. What does that look like, right? What is the HH strategy? We have glitzy political meetings. A political meeting is no longer a one microphone under a one street light on the back of a truck. I don't know if you remember the DLP campaign of 2007-8. We actually had Luciano, the reggae artist Luciano, performing in Oistins. So what this does is that it changes the political appetite and it changes the amount of money that a contender must have to seriously engage in the political process. So when I come to talk a little bit more about Dominica and St. Vincent and the way that their democracies worked before, you could even think about Barbados too. There were individuals for the longest time who were around our political scene who could do their political work because, again, it's just a loudspeaker and a man on the back of a truck. But because our appetites changed during that early 2000 periods, if you are not coming now with a show and shirts and all this paraphernalia and cups and mugs and a reggae artist or two, I think we saw it replicated again only recently on the Ermeybourne Highway with the Barbados Labour Party picnic, where there are actually star quality individuals who were performing at the picnic. So basically, a part of the HH strategy, I argue, is that you go big or you go home. It's $1 million election campaigns. That's what it turns out to be. In Dominica, we have the situation with the paraphernalia imports and individuals. I know that your this class is very astute, so people can do their Googling and they can look and see about some of the paraphernalia and some of the conversations that were had around it in Dominica, so on and so forth. Another important facet of the HH strategy is media influence, right? And again, we see in different parts of the internet world that there are allegations that the media is intimidated into a particular narrative or intimidated out of a particular narrative. And I think a part of the reason why you make space for, the opposition candidate on the show and the independent candidates and that kind of thing, some may argue that it is because the traditional news media in Barbados are not offering that kind of space. So when I'm talking about this kind of theoretical analysis, I hope that you are connecting it, and checking to see if I talk in foolishness or if the argument,
I'm eating this up.
or if the argument holds some water. I believe that typical with all other kingmakers throughout history, because I am dealing with one particular kingmaker, but a kingmaker is also in and of itself a particular trope. It doesn't change. So kingmaking, by virtue of what it is about authoritarian leadership. It is about closed political parties where all roads lead to the prime minister. And we know already that that is a feature of our nationalist project, but I am arguing that it becomes more embedded under the politourgeoisie especially when you're looking at particular king-making strategies, including the H8 strategy.
But can I ask you? I know you don't have much time, but help me. I'm a student here. The close political parties. What do you mean?
So the close political party is that you go into the political party, you sing the song of the political party. There is no opposition to the political party. Basically, I guess in Bajan parlance, you drink the Kool-Aid. That's it. You drink the Kool-Aid and you hush. And this is I want to argue that this is a very post 1990s feature of our nationalist project in the Caribbean, or what I call the Politourgeoisie project in the Caribbean. Because before there was political space, there was room for disagreement. There was room for democracy to work in the favor of the majority. And there are actually examples where when the democracy ceases to represent the majority, the people within the party check the party. So we have that, for example, with Erskine Sandiford, as we well know, and this is how he loses the government. And you will see it as well in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Dominica. So the democracy actually works because it can be checked. And my argument is that under the Politourgeoisie, the democracy loses the ability to be checked. And that is when it becomes dangerous, because it goes into the realm of rabid power, absolute power. And what I think, absolute power does is that it corrupts absolutely. So you can see within the Barbados Labour Party, we just had the whole spectacle about who testified against who and who didn't testify against who. But they told them gone back inside the party and they closed the door. Right? No more of that. But then every fact in another political space is turned into a media campaign. Right? So the party is always seen as a pretty pristine glass window representation under one strong leader. That is what it always has to be. And I am arguing that that is not what democracy is.
A lot of food for thought, huh? If you want to go find out, YouTube, go on YouTube and type in Dr. Masha Hines, Hinds, Myra, Myrie, Caribbean Democracy in Crisis. And of course, we heard Pastor Randy Rodney sharing some of that with us on Kingdom of Connection.
Masha Hines Myrie is having a conversation on Caribbean democracy in crisis. And she speaks about the kingmaker. Now, none of us on this program have a doctorate in politics, but years ago we've been telling you all that this is a cult formation. She highlights the kingmaker in Dominica, the Commonwealth of Dominica. She highlights the kingmaker in Barbados. And she highlights the kingmaker in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And she says in that piece that there is no democracy in these countries. And I'm quoting her. You can go and check it out. Why? Because you cannot have a democracy where you have a king reigning for more than 20 years. It does not happen. Once a king is reigning for more than 20 years, it's no longer a democracy. She called it a bourgeoisie, coming from a connection of politics and bourgeoisie. Bourgeoisie, she calls it. That's what it is. So she says in that piece that what we have in Dominica is a bourgeoisie. And I want you to listen to a little bit of her, and then I will tell you one of the things or some of the things that she says that defines what we have in the Commonwealth. And you will tell me as she exposes that if it looks like Dominica. And I tell you something, if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it is a duck. Listen to her for a couple minutes before I share some other thoughts with you. This interview is an hour and 10 minutes long, but it's worth your listen. It's worth your listen. All right? Listen to this, a little bit of this.
PR. Some people may remember that name. So he eventually goes on throughout his career to become advisors to prime ministers.
And she's talking here about a fellow called Hatley Henry. Okay? Hatley Henry. She's talking about. Listen to this.
Or party officials across the Caribbean. And like I said, tonight I'm focusing on Dominica, Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. Okay? He's known as a political strategist. He's also known as a deal maker and fixer. And I just defined, if we think of, that ancient period, what is some of this kind of wheeling and dealing that is associated with politics. So what I want to do is talk and think a little bit about what I call the HH strategy. What does that look like, right? What is the HH strategy?
The HH strategy is the Hatley Henry strategy.
A political meeting is no longer a one microphone under a one street light on the back of a truck. I don't know if you remember the DLP campaign of 2007-8. We actually had Luciano, the reggae artist Luciano, performing in Oistins. So what this does is that it changes the political appetite and it changes the amount of money that a contender must have to seriously engage in the political process. So when I come to talk a little bit more about Dominica and St. Vincent and the way that their democracies worked before, you could even think about Barbados too. There were individuals for the longest time who were around our political scene who could do their political work because, again, it's just a loudspeaker and a man on the back of a truck. But because our appetites changed during that early 2000 periods, if you are not coming now with a show and shirts and all this paraphernalia and cups and mugs and a reggae artist or two, I think we saw it replicated again only recently on the Ermeybourne Highway with the Barbados Labour Party picnic, where there are actually star quality individuals who were performing at the picnic. So basically, a part of the HH strategy, I argue, is that you go big or you go home. It's $1 million election campaigns. That's what it turns out to be. In Dominica, we have the situation with the paraphernalia imports and individuals. I know that your this class is very astute, so people can do their Googling and they can look and see about some of the paraphernalia and some of the conversations that were had around it in Dominica, so on and so forth. Another important facet of the HH strategy is media influence, right? And again, we see in different parts of the internet world that there are allegations that the media is intimidated into a particular narrative or intimidated out of a particular narrative. And I think a part of the reason why you make space for, the opposition candidate on the show and the independent candidates and that kind of thing, some may argue that it is because the traditional news media in Barbados are not offering that kind of space. So when I'm talking about this kind of theoretical analysis, I hope that you are connecting it,
Yes.
and checking to see if I talk in foolishness or
No,
if
not at all. I'm eating this up.
or if the argument holds some water. I believe that typical with all other kingmakers throughout history, because I am dealing with one particular kingmaker, but a kingmaker is also in and of itself a particular trope. It doesn't change. So kingmaking, by virtue of what it is about authoritarian leadership. It is about closed political parties where all roads lead to the prime minister. And we know already that that is a feature of our nationalist project, but I am arguing that it becomes more embedded under the politourgeoisie, especially when you're looking at particular king-making strategies, including the HH strategy.
But can I ask you? I know you don't have much time, but help me. I'm a student here. The close political.
Now I want to. I mean, you need to listen to this. When I started listening to this, I just got glued, and so I listened to the whole thing. But I want to share with you something that Dr. Marsha Hines Myrie is sharing, and you will, after listening to this, will determine if it mirrors what's happening in the Commonwealth of Dominica. She says that this king style of politics invests itself in minimizing the opposition. She calls it the diminution of opposition. And here's what she says they do. One, they offer key jobs to opposition members or candidates. They offer them key jobs, pay them good money. Two, they make life difficult for people who stay, faithfuls who stay. Three, they place plants in the system to frustrate the functions. And she went on to explain that they can place bugs, they can bug your phone, or they can literally place physical plants, They put people inside the bosom of your party, right? To destroy from within. That's why they know in your secrets. There are people within your party who does that. They have infrastructural development and patronage inextricably tied to the party. So everything they do, even when it's in the country, infrastructural development is tied to the party. Either is the party people doing it or is the party's benefit. I suggest to you that this loan that the government is taking under the guise of doing phase one of moving people is in an effort to do it for the benefit of the party, not for the country in terms of priority, but for the party. Guess what? The next one, the opposition parties blamed for legitimate protest. Everything that happened in Dominica is UWP, even if UWP was not in it at all. Everything that happened is UWP. Guess what? Here's when it gets more serious. Crime or criminal element mobilized as a political tool. And she said something there that caught me thinking, and I have to research it. She said that there are times when crime goes up and times when crime go down, and there is a special nexus between that and either party campaigns, party in office, or parties doing well or good. Strangely. And then she speaks about the one man, one vote is diluted, which is what we've been arguing about in this electoral reform process. How is it diluted? With party finances. In other words, when one person gives the government $2 million, it's not one vote they have. That person have a few hundred votes or sometimes a few thousand votes because they finance the party to buy the votes. So the one man, one vote is diluted. That's why campaign finance reform should have been on the list of priorities in this electoral reform process. Here's another thing they do. One man, one vote is diluted. They have closed door meetings with, organizations. Let me put it that way. And she says, closed door meetings with lodges and Freemasons, right? What does that do? It dilutes the one man, one vote. In other words, they get embedded with organizations like that so that these organizations now get their members to follow suit with where they're voting. And then they have the manipulation of the political process, right? As we see here with the manipulation of the electoral reform bills, right? These are very, very important stuff for you to get and understand. So I invite you to go on YouTube, search for Dr. Marsha Hines Myrie, and the conversation is the Caribbean democracy in crisis, the kingmaker below the radar. I'm going to repeat that again for you. Go on YouTube, Google it, and get it. It's Dr. Marsha Hines Myrie, Caribbean democracy in crisis, kingmaker below the radar. And she's using Dominica, Barbados, and St. Vincent as a case study. And this is a university professor who is using qualitative assessments to see what's happening in the region. And I tell you something, it will blow your mind. I don't care what party you support. Go listen to it, and you will see truth in there that will blow your mind. And you will understand what is happening to us, or what has been happening to us under the H strategy, as she calls it, the Hartley-Henry strategy, used in Dominica, used in Barbados, used in St. Vincent, and in all these countries that it's used. Check it out. The kings have been in office for 20 and 25 years and are boasting that they can't lose election because they are the king. They are following the king makers. Go listen to it. I'm going to give it to you again finally. All of you calling a message to ask about it, listen. It's Google on YouTube, or go on YouTube and search for Dr. Marsha Hines Myrie, Caribbean democracy in crisis, kingmaker below the radar. You will learn something. And I'm hoping that when you learn that, you will know how to vote, and you will know how to protest for what you believe is right. You will advance, and advance in knowledge, in confidence, and comfort, knowing that you begin to understand what is happening. So the reason why they add the opposition is to reduce them to nothing. And the honest truth is, ladies and gentlemen, UWP has done well to survive that kind of strategy after 25 years. They have been in opposition, but they have done well to survive that strategy. All of the confusion you see happening there, don't be surprised that there are plants, even within the party structure. I'm sorry, gentlemen and ladies within UWP, I now ask you to go and get the FBI to find out who are the plants that are there. But when you find them, put them outside. Don't be surprised if there are plants within your party structure that was planted there to destabilize you all the time. That is why they always know your business before you know it. And don't be afraid to cut their tail when you find out that it's them that putting your business outside. Have the testicular fortitude to say, we don't want zombie inside here. Take them out with everything that you can. Take the advice from me today, May 19th, 2020.
And of course, there is more. Stay tuned. More from Kingdom Connections last evening. Stay tuned for part 2 after we do this and come back. Stay tuned.
It's your rate, your call at Republic Bank.
This rate is great. This rate is affordable. This rate is what I need.
Real options for real financial goals. Build, expand, go for the dreams of the rate you want.
This rate is perfect. This rate is for me.
Your rate, your call. Log on to republicbank.ec.com for more.
All you, I just meet gold winning Roseau again. Same place outside Flossie's. I tried to dock in, but you had time see me. Where? Story start again. Million, lot of my father with us, huh? Saga fella, I said the same thing you doing, shopping at Flossie's. And you don't have to tell me the same thing you tell me last time because I busy. It's to hear him way. You reckon? I'm in my pocket, boy. I won't tell you that I save money in food and drinks when I buy quantity. I save more. Oh, shucks, man. Good when you're still telling me. I know already. To pack a respect him, why? But it can up here to Palais. I will tell all my friends from London, US and Dominica to come to Floss's. Right next to the Rosa Market. Open Sunday to Saturday. Floss's can't do it to you.
Still so power. Basketball, basketball, basketball. Basketball International Campaign and Dominique Creole Memorial Day Cup 2025. Échange Creole, Raven Mas Funky. Bet Creole, Sam, Samedi le 24 mai 2025. La Dominicaine Show. Équipe La Dominique au Côte Bénin, en Afrique. La Guada au Côte la Martinique. Ça a été place à complexe sportif intérieur des Massacres. $10 seulement pour montrer. Et ça a commencé, c'était du sport. Basket qualité, basket qualité. 4 nations, sport, commémoration, coopération, à toute quoi la Dominique. Fini vrai, basket international. Créole Memorial des Cup, messieurs, mesdames. Samedi le 24 mai. On capicien pour Kachakou. On Barry pour la plaine. Vini supporter l'équipe la Dominique. Basket, basket, basket. Samedi le 24 mai. Massacre. Ça. Gagne mal. Manchester.
Manifesting $300,000 energy only. Don't play small, play Super 6. The jackpot is over $300,000. Are you in it to win it?
I told you there's another part of our Kingdom Connections that we want to play with you or play to you this afternoon. We're allowing the pastors to educate you on some of the political manifestations taking place in Dominica. Hence, why you're so bazoudid, huh? Listen again next few minutes to the pastors. We'll come back to talk in a minute.
I wanted to play this whole thing. I'm hoping that Mr. G, I hope you're listening, and probably you can grace the people and announce it, promote it, and have people listen to this 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 33-second interview on the Marcia Wicks show with Dr. Marsha Hines Myrie. And maybe we need to get some of us to come together and get Dr. Marsha Hines Myrie to come to Dominica so we can have an interview with her. Okay, so some of you who are listening to me, let's see if we can collect some money and bring Dr. Marsha Hines Myrie here. Some Dominicans' eyes need to be open, whether it's before Honorable Mia Motley or after Honorable Mia Motley, whenever. We need to get Dr. Marsha Hines Marsha Hines Myrie here so we can have a conversation with her. Okay? Very educated doctor, but she is making more than sense. That is not common sense. It is expensive sense, Jack.
Dollar sense.
Yes. Jack, good evening.
A very good evening to you, my brother. How are you?
Doing pretty well.
Well, we are doing well. We are doing well. Praise the Lord. I just want to say hi to all of the folks there in the diaspora and those locally, and especially Bellevue and all over Dominica. I want to say a very good evening. Those of you I recently met, sorry for disappointing you. That's who I am. I'm entertained at funerals and weddings, and people say, "You that is Jack then." Well, sorry to disappoint you. That's the little one. One man was bold enough to me. I think you are a big man. Well, that's all God gave me, and I am very happy for that. I just want to say a good shout out to those of my folks visiting Dominica from Atlanta. I want to say shout out to Bernard, to Polly, Bonsoir, good evening to you. I just want to also express my sympathy on behalf of the Eagle Eyes Ministry to the Joseph family and those of you who may have heard about the passing of Julian. So we just want to express our sympathies to them. A good shout out to all of you folks from Pichley. Bonsoir to my in-laws who may be listening in Canada, and to the rest of you in New York, Atlanta, Florida, wherever you are listening to me tonight. I want to say a very good evening to you. And I always say a good shout out to all our supporters for the program, Open Arms Charity. Thank you very much. That's what we can say. And to all the business places in Dominica, which I have no complaint about, and I don't use that for promo, or no permission to do that. But sometimes we can't mention, but we just want you to know we are thankful. And to all our local ambassadors from Scottsdale to Capuchin, though we may not mention your name often, but we appreciate all of you because we can't do that all over the island, especially not being mobile. So we depend upon our ambassadors to do that, to make the recommendations, and to the village councils who are cooperate with us, or the local groups they have. Any local group, we believe, and that's something we discuss all over in church, that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. If there is an organization already doing some work in their community, we use our resources to promote them and to work with them, especially when we're in distribution, to have them. We welcome other churches to come in and just work with us for the day, just for maybe half a day, maybe sometime we also sometimes on a Sunday, just go to a district and set up shop there and have worship open air, and then do our distribution after. So we always welcome every church in that area. We want the people to participate. And if they could keep going on what we started, we would be very thankful, so that we can make sure that every child, it's summertime, soon it will be summer, every child will go back to school. We don't know what we're doing our back to school program, but we expect that our sponsors will come on board again, and every child will go back to school as they should do, presentable. And that every elderly person would be at least visited, or no elderly person is neglected in this little village called Dominica. So we want to say thank you to all of you, and thank you to all our listeners. Thank you to all the supporters. Thank you for all the messages. And when you said, like you always say, Pastor Jack, we don't call, but I always listen to you. So I want to tell you a big, big thank you. We appreciate every one of you. I want to say good evening to Matthew, wherever he is, Matthew and family. And God bless you. Stay strong. Stay in place. God bless you. Thank you. Kick back, relax, and enjoy the program with us.
Thank you. Pastor Jack, after having, listened to Dr. Basha Hines Myrie, following the conversations we have,
I wish I'd listened so that we could have a chat tonight.
Yeah, but I wanted to listen to it.
I will. I promise you.
I think that it makes. I want every Dominican to hear this, quite honestly, because I believe when you hear this, it becomes an eye opener.
Right.
You begin to see, why we are where we are, why one party has been winning elections despite what everybody says. Okay, why? There are some things that we know. There are some things that we know that the government have used to its advantage. And that's why I believe it has tied itself up with this reconfirmation electoral reform. I'm glad that Dominicans' eyes are opening, and there are some people who are more alert, right? And I know that there are people who are ready for the wrong move that they know the Labour Party will make in the next 15 months.
Will make.
Yeah, they will make it. I know they will make it. Why will they make it? Because, how do they say? Léon chat à côté me voler. Même si vous mettez bébé bouche, les cailles volent toujours. Right? And that is going to happen. I have no doubt in my mind that's going to happen. You went to Parliament, you passed a bill that says after 60 days, after the bill has been assented to by the president, the reconfirmation process will begin for 12 months. And at the end of 12 months, you will give another 3 months for those who didn't reconfirm. So that's 12, that's 15 months plus 60 days, that's 17 months after the bill was passed. That take you to a completion period of somewhere in June, July next year, right? At the rate the campaign has started and the plea for people to come and so on, and the things that we have seen already as the election were in 3 weeks, I would not be surprised if one night the thing takes somebody and, somehow election is called. I won't be surprised. Because somehow when you get to positions like that, Jack, history has taught us that it is not easy for you to pull your brakes.
Right.
Okay? You're on a speeding freight train and the handbrakes is broken. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy to change. That is why even some of the handlers have gotten so desperate. So the ex-police, for example, I understand. I don't listen to these trash programs, but I'm told when my name is mentioned, this police, seem to be in love with me, or like Matt says, he hate to love me. So my name is sweet in his mouth, I understand. And so every other sentence is Pastor Randy Rodney, Pastor Randy Rodney, Pastor Randy Rodney, Pastor Randy Rodney. Well, I'm not Lennox Linton.
Okay, thank God.
I'm not Lennox Linton. So when I put my knees down for you, your tongue will get heavy. You won't be able to say Randy Rodney's son. And they will say, somebody, do you know? It's me that be praying for you. Jack, you must want them,
Mm-hmm.
You must tell them you mustn't play with God's people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You mustn't do that. So everything you have called me names. And I don't know why Cleville Mills want to call my name, because Cleville Mills took offense to the point where he sued Q95 and Matt Peltier when they called his name about something. Gaston, shut your mouth about people. Don't do that. And here you can call me and I'll tell you the same thing. I'll give you the chance, Q95 people don't want me to let you speak. I'll give you a chance, but I'll tell you, shut your mouth about people. You don't know me, Gaston. So don't say a word about that. You understand? Now, when you see they get hot like that is when the blood swelling, you know what I mean? And you want to go at it. And that is where the problem is. And so I have no doubts in my mind that the logical thing for that kind of environment is to go to that direction. But I'm glad that there are people who are, on their P's and Q's about that. So you move and they will counter move, and somebody will credit something to ensure that somehow there is some sort of stop somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad about that. But more than that, I want people to listen to this, because we've been talking about the state of the nation.
Right. And I think that is very appropriate.
Oh, that's what I'm saying to you. That's why God, if you listen to the first 17 minutes of that, any one of you, just listen to the first 17, 20 minutes of that, and you figure, whoosh, that lady know about us?
They're describing us.
Right. And you will get to understand you have a good idea of what is happening in the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I don't know if Barbados and St. Vincent is bad like us. I think we are Worcester.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a word like that, and I'm saying to every one of you, whether you are Labourite, you are UWPI, you are TUDI, you are APPI, you are whatever PPI, and whatever, go listen to this, because you need to educate yourself as to what's happening in Dominica and where we are. And I believe that the only thing that, in my humble view, Pastor Jack, that is happening now, that is beginning to put pressure, is the spiritual warfare that has been happening, is the fact that some of these, evil altars now are attacked and destroyed, is the fact that somehow there is not much that is happening freely in the spiritual world. So it's coming down to jam. The accidents are happening frequently now. If I'm sure you'll understand my language in that spiritual aspect. The accidents are happening frequently now. The bumpers are crushing. And that is what is slowing the pace down. And that is what I'm convinced will crash the plane.
All right, Dominica, watch an analysis there. And I hope you're paying attention. Somebody says, I told you, all possibility of payment to somebody in the UWP camp. I always felt that. They're paying somebody there to destroy the party.
The young lady making a presentation, and I want to agree with her on several fronts. But one of the things she said, Matt Pelty, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to your listeners. I listened intently to the young lady making a presentation, and I want to agree with her on several fronts. But one of the things she said about the plantation being a political system, I beg to differ. The plantation was an economic system that complemented the political system at the time, and that economic system was the use of specifically slaves, black men, for the creation of wealth for the aristocracy and the political elites at the time. And the sad part about it is that plantation system still exists today. That's why men like Hartley Henry are able to exploit it. And I have told you in the past that Roosevelt Skerritt behaves like an emperor. He thinks he's an emperor. He's created that imperial ideology, imperial atmosphere by putting puppets in parliament, and every decision goes through him. Matt Peltier, I've told you what he does. He builds palaces in Vegas, builds palaces in Mount Daniel, and he dictates everything in this country. All roads, all decision leads through Roosevelt Skerritt. That can't be a democracy. So we've seen people like Matthew Walters and Ian Douglas and the current security minister who got fired and betraying the trust of the people, betraying the people that they were elected to serve in maintaining a democratic process where the people have the power and have yielded the power of the people to one gentleman who controlled the person, control the police. And how he has done that is by looking for individuals. If you look at the police commissioner, if you look at the electoral office, if you look at certain people in position, Matt Peltier, all you have to do is look for somebody who have financial issues. Look at the Speaker of the House. The Speaker of the House is nothing but a pet dog on a string, backing hard when anybody tries to ask scared question in Parliament. When you look at these people, they have issues, and Skerritt comes and he either bribes them or gives them money, and all of a sudden their loyalty is not to the service of the country and the constitution, but to the man who's giving them breath and who's giving them life. And stupidly at that, they believe that's what it is. So when they come and have a conversation or they come and act in the public, it's not in the interest of the people of Dominica. And she mentioned the minority leading the majority when the majority put the minority in office. Well, in Dominica's case, the majority didn't have any input on many of the people who are leading our parliament today. And I can name constituencies, mine, for example. And some of these people are what they are there to do is to make sure that the resources of the state is available for those who work hard enough to attain it. In a democratic free market system, that is what's supposed to happen. But we have a plantation system where the plantation owner has a few house slaves doing as he please. And there are some field slaves who would sit down there and dress in red and come to every rally, not understanding their predicament. And then there are a group of people you call the Negmawa. That is what exists in Dominica today. And the master of the plantation has now made himself a king, so he goes around and links to foreign countries and foreign parties who are enabling his BS. Matt Peltier, she's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. But at the end of the day, having that information in our hand, what we need to do is to embark on an information drive for our young people and our population so that we can become more politically conscious. Not just politically conscious, but our own identity, self-conscious. What do we want of ourselves as Black people who have been given the boot for generations? Do we want to continue to be beggars and slaves? Do we want to see ourselves as doctors and independent individuals who will fight to maintain our own integrity and our pride? Do we want to see ourselves as the lapdog of another person? And when our churches sit by and our people don't realize that when we elect people, we're not just electing them to serve, we're electing their personality. So if we elect a thief, he's going to continue stealing. If we elect a vagabond, he's going to bring that personality in office. If we elect a liar, if we elect a compulsive liar, he's going to bring that personality in office. If we elect people who don't have values and morals, people who grew up without understanding what it is to have a mother and a father and has no empathy and love, that's what they bring to the office. And what I have seen for the last 20 years is an individual who has shown all of these bad characteristics in our government. And when people like Hartley Henry come around and tell them I can make you a king, they don't think about their people but themselves, Matt Peltier. And we've reached to the point where we, the people, have to stand up and take back our governance, take back our integrity, take back our sanity, Matt Peltier. That's what needs to be done.
Food for thought, huh? Good afternoon to you, JL. Nice to know that you're listening and locked in, huh? And we'll explain, okay? I took note of that. Hello, talk to me on the telephone. Yes,
Good afternoon, man.
Good afternoon to
I
you.
listened to that lady, and what some of it I could understand and digest. I did digest it very well. Because since that Belgian man really came on the scene in 2000 with that party, Labour Party, and his stooge he have here, that they take a circus source. You have to have money. You have to know what to do, give the people, fool the people, for them to follow you. And Pastor Rodney said something, and I believe him. Whoever it is they pay the Labour Party and them paying to be an obstacle in workers' way, and they have them planted inside there. That is what I say, you know. What they say, they will shop there themselves. They're bound to shop themselves. They're bound to slip, and they will slide. Because things will happen inside them. Before it happens, somebody on the road know it. And that people are not on the executive, but they always know what was said in the executive meeting, and that is wrong. That shouldn't be happening at all. People are sure them doesn't even live in Dominica, but they always do. So who they plan their models that you will show off yourself. Yes, you will show off yourself. I mean, if you United Workers Party since inception, and nobody not going to make me come out there. If I don't want to come out there, if I see something wrong, I will say it wrong. Because all now, so I need members of the leadership committee to come out and speak to the people and let the people know how they should go about getting their voters ID card. And it's high time that happens. Because you need to have a ID to go and, how you calling it, reconfirm.
Mm-hmm.
And I know hearing nothing. So please, whoever that have to do that, let the people of Dominica know something, because we not hearing nothing. Labour Party all about telling their people what they have to get, what they have to do, what to be reconfirmed. And we not hearing nothing. Please come out and speak to the people. Let us know what's going on.
All right, Blue, thank you very much. Thank you very much. As it relates to the moles in the United Workers' Party, maybe you should get the FBI on that, because as you said, there may be moles selling out all the secrets of the United Workers' Party. Hello, talk to me. Look very closely, may just be around your corner there. Hello, talk to me. Oh boy.
Good
Yes.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Matt.
How you doing? How you doing? Yes.
But I'm listening to your program today and I'm left laughing, because the earlier part of Pastor Randy last night, I missed that part. But when you play that whole 10 minutes of the professional lady saying what she was saying, I listened to that kill me. But Mark, you know what came to my mind? You have to go back to your archives, Mr. Sky make it plain that he wanted Dominica to be the bridge. I'm quoting him there. For Russia to go to the other islands. You remember he said that, Mark?
For
You
Russia?
can go back to your archives. Can you go back to your archives and get that?
Well,
He said he wanted Dominica to be a bridge.
Oh, Dominica. Okay.
Pathway for Russia to get to the other islands in the region. And Mark, I'm listening to your program and I'm saying, boy, this is why people say, I hate the Prime Minister. This man, everything he say, you have to look at it in a different aspect. You have to search, you have to think deeply. Because what he actually was saying, based on what I'm listening to, he wants the whole region to be like him. Thank you, Mark.
All right, thank you too. Thank you. 449-3095-96 and 97. Let's continue here in the afternoon. A little later down, maybe next few minutes, I'll play you a conversation that took place yesterday in Parliament that you may be interested in. Mr. Delbert Paris and the Prime Minister of Dominica in conversation there, and they were allowed to continue for a little while. I just found it very interesting. I want to share that with you. Okay. 449-3095-96, and let's do this break, and we'll come right back. Yes.
So I ask you, what are you doing inside Blue Box? You have a farm? You tell me, that's how else sort. I've been married 37 years. Come back and see money farm. They say, no, not woman, like land for farming crops. And then you understand, Blue Box is the most affordable on island. Knapsacks starting at only $57.71. Elsewhere, it's $300 plus. Cutlass seeds, seeding trays, nursery pots, sales of potting mix, all at way better prices than anywhere else. Fertilizers, 3-in-1 multi-tool, and so much more. Located on Federation Drive, Goodwill. Second property on the right after the Valley Link Road and on the corner of Drury Lane and Hanover Street in Rosal. Bloom Box. Let's bloom together.
A fresh market. When money don't count and the money don't hurt you. A fresh market. Fresh market. 7 days a week with the top of the line products. Well stocked supermarket and pharmacy, health and beauty care, fresh produce and meats prepared daily, hot and cold kitchen, ready to go meals, sandwiches, salads, and desserts at your fingertips. Easy access, located on the bayfront, environment friendly, and our staff are approachable and ready to assist. Have you figured out who we are? You got it. Fresh market. Your one stop. Where money don't count and your pocket don't hurt you. Fresh market. Fresh market, never disappointed.
Somebody said, Matt, I did some research on Hartley Henry, and it goes down a deep rabbit hole, especially when it comes to Dominica and China. A rabbit hole even before I was born. So this is the one conducting the experiment on Dominica, making the king feel invincible. So as long as Hartley Henry is there, long live the king, huh? Question mark. But God alone that know how this will end, and people will have to be placed on watch. But what the opposition needs to do is to bombard the nation using the airwave, social media, as well as going around the country with this information. They should not do it just once, but continuously until election. The education, I'm saying, should continue. Wake up, Dominica, wake up. As Dr. Pastor Randy Rodney said earlier, it's time that they get together within the opposition and invite this professor to Dominica. I have an idea. Three men comes to mind around the table or individually to break Dr. Myers' analysis. Mr. Lennox, Pastor Rodney, and Simeon Joseph to educate the people and to demystify that game that has been played on the people. Destroy the kingmaker, but the heel has gone quiet. So a lot of education is required at this time. Somebody says, nothing strange, bro. Every commentary on Dominican has told us the same thing, which is in our face. Matt, I remember doing a similar expose on this topic about a year ago. Nobody took me on. Also, Blessings is vindicated. He has been calling this out for years. Somebody wants to hear this one at this time. Jen John, young people, listen, open your eyes.
No to say no, I'm back for it now. Don't see what they need how to play your song. What you have no love to play recitation. Oh, she no pasa with my melody. Let's say, Mama. Ah. Oh, she am packing on honey exploding.
Somebody says we need to liberate ourselves from such a system of government. Education is key, huh?
Mama.
You see what's happening to PDD? Tanto. What goes up must come down. Remember I told you a few times, I told you the opposition members might be backed by the DLP, Chinese party.
Mama. Mama.
And now let's listen to a conversation that took place yesterday in Parliament, between Mr. Delbert Paris, Senator, and the Prime Minister of Dominica, Mr. Garrett. If you missed it, well, this is it.
My comments would have addressed the questions I heard you ask. And if you think it has not, you're free to stand and ask me and tell me which ones I didn't answer. I'm Senator Parks, please. No? I would like to have a conversation if you have a question. Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah. Tell me which one. Tell me which one. Tell me which one.
Well, give me an opportunity like that for me to listen. I have concerns about the empowerment of the young people and our skills people in those communities and Dominica at large, empowering them to participate meaningfully. That is always a problem.
Okay.
Mr. Prime Minister, just let me say I like this opportunity here. Also, engage. I love this. I always have a concern that there's tremendous more room for us to empower young people in the fields, young engineers, young contractors, and people who exist in the field.
But which ones you're not engaging? But please. But which ones you're not engaging? Because you make a statement.
No, that is not a statement. That's a question.
No. But you make a general. That's a statement you're making. You make a statement. That's a question. I'm an English teacher. You're a statement. I mean, you are making an assertion, a general assertion.
Yes.
But the question is, who are you talking about? Because every contractor I speak to are telling me, Prime Minister, we need workers from overseas. Have an emergency.
That's exactly the point.
Because they either have exhausted the local market in many respects, and two, people are not availing themselves. So and I keep telling them, but why don't you guys speak about this publicly? Why are you giving people? Why is it that in the country we have the notion or the view that there's no work when every person, whether it's the supermarkets who are asking for foreign workers, whether it's the hotels asking for foreign workers, they all asking for foreign workers. And so if you have particular names of engineer, because all of the works that we're doing, we're begging for an engineer. The FS had to go and literally beg a local engineer to come on the roads enhancement project. We advertise those things, comrade. The basic distress fund, the projects, the water sector with engineers. The problem is that I mean, something I have is that everybody wants to be everyone wants their own shingle in town, rather than working together. So a civil engineer, a structural engineer.
So, Senator, take your seat still and then you'll get up and ask another question. If you go, no, two members cannot be standing at the same time. So just sit and then make him respond and you'll come back.
So I'm saying that if you take a geophone, for example, you will have it because internationally tendered. But all of the subcontracting have been done for local Dominicans. All of the interventions we're doing now, whether it's in Makusui or Bells or St. Joe, are local contractors. We're going to be all of the homes we're doing in the Kanago territory. Our indigenous Kalinagos doing them. All the people who build Jungle Bay, all Dominicans, uncle, all. Your firm was engaged on the Marriott Hotel in Portsmouth. Yes, Stuco was engaged. I mean, come on, let's be honest. I mean, if you tell me, well, we need more work, I have to find me. But don't tell me that Dominicans are not being engaged. It's not true. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not what I'm saying.
What you saying, Uncle?
But if you give me a chance, I'll explain it to you. You want me to explain it to you? The reason that we're having a problem with finding workers is because they're finding opportunities elsewhere. Why? Because there's not enough training going on that helps us. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Please allow, hold on, members. The Prime Minister is on his feet. Please allow him to have an interaction in an unprecedented manner. That's why I'm watching the rule book, but the Prime Minister make a move on it. So leave them.
I think the barracks training is always needed.
No, but let me give you an example. Yeah. Before I finish, you can't answer before I finish. Right. Let me give you an example. On the international airport, right?
Yeah.
And I've said this here before.
Yeah.
And I sometimes think we conflate the issues because it's an opposition and we conflate it, right?
No, go ahead.
But we have an opportunity to create a number of training programs on these areas. Wait, you're eager to answer. Wait, let the question finish.
Because your premise is wrong.
No, hold on.
So anything you say after that is wrong.
The reason why we have so much of a drain all of the time is that people are not finding reasons to stay. We need to create systems that continue to empower them and equip them to stay.
Paris, if you say, please, if you say that you want a job on the airport, tell me that.
I don't.
No, because you do not know who's engaged. At the lab, Mr. Paris, Senator Paris, there are Dominicans who are working side by side, the international experts, and they are being the ones running the lab, the Dominicans there. If you go on the airport, there's a Dr. Peltier, last time, who is the main engineer, Dominican lady there. There's several Dominicans engaged in technical fields. There's a young lady from Marigot there. If you know of anybody who has particular skills and who can engage, we're more than prepared to look at that. More than prepared to look at that. Just to tell you, let us be specific. If you have names of people who have an interest in working and learning and so forth, great. I can give you the assurance that I will get them engaged. But nobody cannot make. But before making Paris, you can't make a blanket statement
that allows for training of more people, consistent training, so that when we need workers, we always have, because they will always go. That's what.
But all of the projects you have, and you engage contractors, is the expectation that they will engage local Dominicans. And local contractors talk about who will be getting on-the-job training. That's what it is. So I'm trying to understand your point anyway.
I realize it's troubling.
No, but I'm trying to understand your point because you make a statement that is not steep. In fact,
what is it steep? Obviously, you know.
There's no, you're making an assumption, something you don't know. So I suspect that you may be looking for workers that you can't find.
What?
That you may be looking for workers that you can't find. Anyway, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Prime Minister, I really wanted to have an engagement with you because you created this opportunity and I do not.
No problem. I know where you were. I know where you were. There was no seats for you, and there was nobody trying to listen to you. And that was so I will afford you the opportunity that you and I can meet and we can talk about all the things that you want to talk about. Because no, not there now. Outside. Because as you said, that in the Workers' Party, there's no place for a young person.
Well, what is the relevance of that? There's no relevance.
So, I agree with you. I agree. Yeah, I agree.
The relevance of Senator is that I am prepared to listen to you. I am prepared to listen to you. That's the relevance. Because was that? No. As I tell you, you have to conduct yourself as a young lady differently. I can tell you that privately. This is not street jump up, darling. This is Parliament. So be careful how you conduct yourself. This is not. Please. I don't want to say it's publicity, but I say it for you on our side sometimes when I speak to you. Please conduct yourself better than that. But no, I'm prepared to meet on this because it's a conversation I believe that the country needs to have. Because, Mr. Speaker, when I meet a lot of contractors and I meet private sector people, they all complain to me that they can't find workers. They can't find workers. And I'm saying to them that the narrative out there in the public domain is that there's no work. So let us have this said publicly. Because a number of them, Mr. Paris, Senator Paris, are applying to the Ministry of Labor to get work permits for non-nationals to come into work on construction firms, to come into work at the hotels, to come into work at supermarkets. That's what we have now, a number of them. So I'm saying let us look at it. Training will always be required. This is why we are spending money on education. This is why we're providing scholarships to young people to go out to study, and we encourage people to go into the technical fields. This is why we're going to transform. We're gonna transform the new Goodwill School into a center of excellence for technical vocational education, and have a national center for this because we recognize that technical skills are going to be even more important in this country than ever before because of the opportunities, the expansion of the economy, the more hotel rooms, the marina being constructed, international airport, the cruise village that's coming, the new cargo port that's coming, and we're going to have the hospitals, and that's one of the challenges we have the hospital, Mr. Speaker, is that the staffing that you need at the hospital to carry the real bolts and so on, you can't find those persons to do those kind of things. You see what I'm saying? You can't find because but let's I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what we have to do some of this. I went to school in the United States. I funded my education. I didn't have a government to tell me to come back home, to come make a contribution to my country. I came back. I came back. But we have to have a national responsibility. National responsibility. Someone can induce you to come back to your country. No. You have a duty to your country. Why do you think that we are recruiting so many doctors from Cuba? Because we are gap. So their jobs. Why do you think we have foreign engineers? Because we have a gap. Their jobs. People make a choice.
Senator, if you want to speak in the mic because we're
People
doing
make a
something
choice.
unprecedented.
No.
Yeah,
You make a choice.
yeah.
It's a choice, a personal choice. The people who move for different reasons. For different reasons. It's a choice. The choice. So there are different reasons. We can examine the reasons. But the opportunities that we have, we ourselves, when we go to school, we also have to create our own opportunities too. By the facilitation of the government. There's always been a gap. There's always been a gap. There's always been a gap.
So, Honorable Prime Minister, in regards to that matter, I think you have exhausted it.
I
I don't know
agree.
if you want to allow him to ask another question or we can move on.
All right, Dominique, a conversation there between Mr. Delbert Paris and the Prime Minister. Very interesting. As somebody's saying there on the Facebook, do we know anybody in Dominica that's looking for a job? And I've graduated from university, came back to work in Dominica, and you have not found a job. Well, you just said the Prime Minister, because I know a lot of students who came back and is still looking for a job. So, hello, talk to me on the telephone. Very interesting. Very interesting. Hello, talk to me. Yes.
Okay, that is what I was referring to of the conversation this morning. And sometimes as a Christian, I am trusting God. Yes, I'm trusting God, but there are times when you feel to ask God, when will He intervene? And then sometimes I have to take back my word because all I said, Lord, I believe in you, and I believe that one of these days you'll show yourself strong on behalf of you. Because you see, that is what anger is in the bosom of a fool. We have to be careful of how we speak and the way we speak. Because you see, when you are angry, you just burst out, you say everything. But if you take your time and speak and ask God to help you to speak, it will be much better. That is why you see, I mean, sometimes a lot of young people around the world, or how you talk to them, before you'll curse you, they'll tell you certain things. Because many times in Dominica, we don't have example of people that's supposed to stand up and speak smooth. The Bible said that a soft answer can with wrath. So if you speak soft, the person is able to communicate. But if you are speaking in anger, the person get angry, and then here it is. A fight will take place, a cursing will take place. I am warning my people in Dominica. My heart has hurt me because I have children growing up and grandchildren. Be careful, grown-ups. We grown-ups, how we deal with young people. Because what we portray to them and what we give to them, that's what they'll give to others.
All right, caller, thank you very much. Let's take a phone call there. It's 2:38. I'm just asking whether you have you graduate from some university and you're looking for a job, because I know there are a lot of students looking for work. Wow. The Prime Minister says there's work available. Please indicate to me, PM, where they are and send me the information so I could share. Or call Emo. People always refer to Emo for they're looking for a job. Are you there, caller?
Yes, Mr. Pelty, are you there with me?
I'm right here.
Skerrit is not just a mad dog, sorry. Skerrit is not just a madman. Skerrit is wicked, ruthless, rude, arrogant, and he's an impulsive liar. Not all the workers at Jungle Bay were Dominicans, Matt.
No. I know that for a fact. No, they're not. I know there are a lot of Guyanese there. Guyanese, yes.
Not a lot. A lot of foreigners were there working. I went there a few times on business, and I know there were a lot of foreigners working. So this man just shoot up his mouth like some sewage that leaking and just, let me not say that, Matt. Matt, when I listen to Skerrit, if you want a job, so you see the judge, jury, and executioner, anything you want, you have to go to Skerrit.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder nothing is being done professionally. Nothing is being done properly because you have a lunatic, a madman running a country, and he shut the mouth of people that were already millionaires, Matt, give them passports to sell, and think now the shit hitting the fan and they will be spared. The churches are not intervening and say, Skerrit, I think you're out of order. They're listening, Matt. Matt, you think you're not listening to you?
Of course.
But I've got almost every pastor have a phone, they have the earpiece, you don't know what they're listening to. They know what's going on in the country. But these people that know about heaven and hell are afraid of Skerrit. So when Skerrit talking about if Delbert Parish wants a job, tell him not all the nurses we have trained and they're working in Dominica, Matt. If you want somebody to tell you about hospital and nurses and doctors, look the expert there, Matt. Matt, them nurses and doctors warded oddly going through hell. That is why they have to run. Skerrit saying that is why we have to have the Cuban program and all of that. Why our nurses and doctors are running? Why? So Joseph Isaac says it's unprecedented, Matt, to allow two people to go through back and forth like that. You hear him this morning, the clipping you played, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
All they say, the rules and regulations, everything that governs the house.
Yes.
Now it's Skerrit. He allows Skerrit to run amok.
Unprecedented.
He's backing at Delbert. He's having him badgered, not wanting him to at least establish the facts and the contribution. So guess what? He's dominating the argument, and he knows Joseph Isaac will allow him to run. So Matt, it is very sad for me to see what is happening in Dominica, Matt, and the people who knows better. It's because maybe it's out of fear and out of profit and fanaticism, the extreme in their support for politicians and political parties. They're just allowing Skerrit to destroy Dominica, Matt. And, so the Hartley Henry, by Matt, I hear somebody say, oh, blessings vindicate. Nobody doesn't vindicate me. Thanks for the consideration, sir. But I noticed the game, and I said a lot, and I tell Matt, would you say my palace up on the radio, because I see so much of it come to pass. The back I was backing all through the years, Matt, I realized, but look, everything come to fruition. So all those who used to give me make way, when they see me, some of them bowing their heads, they used to give me make way. Blessings, Matt, something drastic has to be done to save that country, because that lunatic, Matt, did I yet sign some agreement with the Chinese media or something, Matt?
That happened last year. I'm surprised it's surfacing right now, but it happened since last year.
Oh, since last year, interesting, Matt. And Matt, where the journalists in Dominica, Matt, I know self-preservation. Look, they killed about 4 of them yesterday in that place they call in Israel. 200, it was 215 or 16. Now it's 200 and what? 20-something. World War I and World War II individually. Never had that high count of journalists been murdered. So I know self-preservation is healthy. So take care about yourself, but try to talk to the ambassador, try to talk to the electoral commissioners, try to get us some information now.
Well, based on what I know, Blessings, a few media persons, I think from GIS, some persons, some freelance journalists have gone to China. They stay about 3 or 4 months. I'm even being told that a few are not being offered the chance to go if they want to go. So that agreement has been fulfilled as we speak. So
they're going to be further indoctrinated, Matt, how to ask questions and how to behave themselves when they meet the prime minister and when they meet the opposition, how to interrogate them and have them badgered, Matt. Thank you.
Yes, I'm told that some technical people have gone for training as well. 449. Hello, talk to me as we speak. Hello, yes.
Hi, Matt, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Yes, rather interesting conversation with the Prime Minister and President Buhari. According to the Prime Minister, I don't know if we're talking about it yet.
For some reason, you have to try another line because that line is very noisy and we're not hearing you very clearly. Hello, Chuck. Try again, okay? Thank you. Hello, yes.
Matt, good afternoon to you again.
Yes, you're back.
These are different subjects, so I call on this subject again. That's okay?
Fine, go ahead.
Yeah, Matt, I believe the Prime Minister is listening. I want to tell the Prime Minister what he's telling the people. Well, I know he always telling lies, but it's not true. It's not accurate. Because there's a young man from Watton and he went away, Matt, to study. And Matt, when he came back, he couldn't find a job. He had to go back to China, Watton didn't know that.
That's true.
Prime Minister know that too. Mm-hmm. But secondly, there's a young man in Scott's Head. Maybe he's getting out of age. Now he's coming up. And he was an architect or whatever called the architect.
Mm-hmm.
And this man was employed by the government, because he wasn't supporting the government. They fire him with a red letterhead, He's still in a job, Mr. Prime Minister. Go check in Scott's Head, man. All right, thank you, Matt.
All right, thank you. As I said, if there are jobs available, and you should let the people know, because a lot of people actually maybe almost on a daily basis asking me if there are jobs. So if you have your CV, send us a PM, you'll find your job. That's what I'm going to say at this time. Blessings is correct. The hospital management keeps disrespecting doctors, nurses, and all, so they must run for their own survival. I have about, maybe I can count on my fingers, maybe over 5 nurses, my friends who have left. They're not satisfied with what is happening in Dominica. Hello, talk to me on the telephone, and they look to...
Man, good afternoon. I was
Thank you.
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that, Matt, I'm very interested in conversation with the Honorable Prime Minister and Senator David Harris.
Yes.
And he said that there are countless applications made by foreign contractors.
Yes.
To the report division to get people to come down from overseas come and work in Dominica. And my question is, if we have so many employment opportunities in Dominica, why do we still have the NEP? Why?
Very good question. Very good question.
Why are they not engaged to fill in this position. We're talking about working in stores, working in hotels, and stuff like that. Now, if they are not qualified, why, as since the Paris was saying, why don't you train them instead of the government having to spend millions of dollars every month to pay NEP workers, and you have foreign contractors asking you to get foreign people to come to vote, to be employed in stores, hotels. To me, if that is the case, you want to keep the NEP and white workers that may not be educated. I know for a fact that there are NEP workers working on the street that went to high school and went to secondary school, and they are capable of doing the job that is saying that the foreign contractors are asking the labor division to grant permission. Understand that. I would like someone to explain why doesn't the NEP worker, why do we still have NEP workers if we still have all that employment available in the country? You understand what I'm saying now?
I'm understanding what you're saying. I'm saying, and I'm asking the PM this afternoon, if you have such a list of employment opportunities, make it available to the public, because a lot of young people approach me on a daily basis looking for jobs. So maybe you have, and we don't know, or they don't know about it. Yes?
Good afternoon, Matt, and good afternoon to all Dominicans. Matt, Roosevelt Skerrit is so mal classé. This man has no respect, none whatsoever. He's mal classé. Can you imagine it is the member's turn to speak, but I heard he told Paris to sit down. Who the hell are you, Roosevelt Skerrit? The man is giving his contribution. You chose to interject, and you tell him to sit down? You see why people like me could never be any politician? Because I'll tell you, go to hell. You cannot tell me to sit down. If you want to address me, you address me through the speaker. You are rude and out of order, Skerrit. And it's a long time this man behaves like that, you know. The other day when they had this meeting in Dominica with this guy, his name does not come to mind at this time. It was the same thing he did. He spoke for more than an hour. And then when the man spoke, when it was the man's turn to speak, he got up and took the mic because he did not like what the man was saying. At the Severin Mackenzie meeting, he took over the meeting. This man has no respect, and he's just as disgusting as his group of supporters who would not listen. They would be heckling above the person speaking all the time. And this is just so, this is, man, I just can't understand what kind of examples this man is setting for his children and how his children are going to behave. This is madness. But you see, Matt, how he behaves? He does not want Delbert Paris to make his point because he knows what the man is saying is true, but he does not want him to be heard. He does not want him heard. So he gets very fiery. And he gets out of character because that is how he is. The man is an old character. The man is untamed. He's untrained. He has no decency, no manners. And this is what you get in Parliament. And the Speaker of the House sits down and he allows that type of abuse. But he knows for a fact what Delbert Paris is saying is true. With all the work that is going on in Dominica, he himself told us how much money is exported into other countries. From the same work, he said that young people has the opportunity in Dominica. Young people have opportunities. Which opportunities? You know well, sir, that the young people have no opportunities in Dominica. If you can count 5 projects where a few young people are employed, when Dominica is predominantly Black, Dominica belongs to native Dominicans, and you can count on your fingers on one hand how many projects that have employed Dominicans. Then you need to get the hell out from our office because you have no understanding. You have lost touch with the people. And when a leader has lost touch with its citizens, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to go. You have remained there too long. So you can treat people like you are the emperor. And the other charlatans like yourself in Parliament, crack, 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 crack. These people have nothing to offer. It's only in Dominica. These blind mice could be in Parliament. It's only in a dictatorship. Things like that can prevail. But what Delbert Paris said is a fact. It is a fact. You should be ashamed of yourself to tell them, to ask the man if he wants a job. Go to hell, Roosevelt.
No love, no love, no love in them hearts. We see them gone. No love in this world. May they lose them soul under my control. We see them man got no love, no love, no love in them hearts. We see them gone. No love.
I must conduct a survey to find out just how many students from the state college or from high school finds jobs in Dominica when they leave school or graduate from school. I just find it very funny. Yeah, maybe true, I don't know. But in terms of the numbers of persons being employed after leaving school, I have a problem with that.
No love in this world. Many lose them soul under my control.
Many of our students run to St. Kitts, St. Lucia.
No love at all. Little lion song goes over.
And if they have a visa, they run to the United States, St. Thomas, St. Croix. I find it very strange, very strange. Mr. Owen, my friend in St. Thomas, there are jobs available. Man, come back home, come back home. On the telephone, hello, talk to me, yes? Hello. Hello. Nobody there. Hello, talk to me, yes? Nobody there? Hello, talk to me, yes?
Just quickly, Matt, brief. Matt, there is a song Bob Marley singing. You can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Matt Skerritt is not learning from his idiocy, you know. Matt Dominica, Matt Labour Rights, UWPI, all eyes know Skerritt is an inveterate and impulsive liar. But Matt, they're in a survival mode. People are walking cautiously. Apart from that, they're all preoccupied on social media and doing whatever they have to do to survive, Matt. And Skerritt knows that. So all the disrespect on every opportunity he gets. Matt, listen to the man, you know, the way he treated Delbert Paris in Parliament there. You listen to that carefully and dissect that, Matt. I'm a kind of spontaneous guy. I pick up a lot of garbage Skerritt spew there. I don't know if from his mouth. I go to say rare, but I will not say that again, Matt. Matt, that level of disrespect have to stop. Matt, so many people that are listening, they already know. Matt Skerritt saying things which he know is not true, and he know the people know it is not true. But because he have the power, man, what they call power, and authority, and he have the finances of the country, he tells people go to hell. It's not your dumb business. You're afraid in your heart. Too poor, no law, no. The man just keep disrespecting the people of Dominica. And the churches that want to build a foundation on morality have not opened their mouths collectively and condemn a dictator, not a creeping nomad, not a creeping, a dictator, full-fledged in flight, not flying higher than eagles. And people come in and sit down there and they're talking about workers. Workers have its flaws. I can give them mépris, but the churches won't hear. They are the worst kind of people. We're not the people, the organization. The worst organization in Dominica are the churches, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you. We need some data. We need some real data so we could cross-check. Better statement about employment. Someone says, man, you know for yourselves that is not true. Is being very disingenuous. He should have challenged to bring it forward. He should have been challenged to bring it forward. Yeah, present the data. Present the data. Because, no. We just had 800 people laid off just a few weeks ago. Ask how many found employment. 800 from Clare Harbor.
Get up. Stand up.
And I know.
Get up.
Something is wrong. Hello, talk to me. Yes?
But so many young people, as you just said, but I know for a fact I have people in that same group that but letters all over the place looking for a job. And they can't get a job and they went to college, they're educated. Send, even out of Dominica they send in letters, but and they can't get a job because they have to be in the country to walk in for the interview. And they're up there in Dominica. And they can just walk in to have the interview on the other side. But here, where they can walk in, they're not getting the job. But and the way Scarrett getting on inside there is like, he say, what he said here, he have his tongue sharp and his this, because he's from Vegas. But wouldn't go down the gutter with him because he say, technically trying to say he's a gutter rat. Delbert is not a gutter rat. He just doesn't want people to listen to Delbert. Because if people listen to Delbert, they will say, wow, that man is outstanding man and he can speak. He's very articulate. But he didn't want, so he wanted to come over Delbert. Listen to him good. He just wanted to make sure he write roughshod on Delbert. But you write roughshod on yourself because you're got a rat, and Delbert will not go down and jump in the mud with you. He can speak better than you. He's more educated than you. He's more brilliant than you. He's more everything than you will ever want to be. Have a blessed day, man. Bye-bye.
All right, Blue. Thank you very much on the telephone. Hello, talk to me. Yes, 30. No, it's 258. Hello, yes. Good afternoon.
Yeah, my brother. What's up, my brother?
I'm right here.
Well, I'm there too. Well, yeah. So we're going in just like that. We're going in. Mr. Scary, I have been calling on you for the longest while to have a family reunion in the Windsor Park instead of having CO going in the park. Mr. Scary, you have been sending some scatter shots, which is not right for the nation. And the young generation is very eager to do what? Only thing you're talking about is to kill, to this, to that. They want this, they want that. What is causing that? You're not putting things in place for them and for us, a sporting facility that can free up our head, Mr. Scary. I am calling on you. Instead, you talk about a labor anniversary. Let us have something in the park. And you, in House of Assembly, man, you have to conduct yourself. I mean, the whole world here, Mr. Scary. The average man should start to understand the kind of bullets you sending with your tongue under the no law, the no constitution. Mr. Scary, you can do better than that. If you, as the leader of the country, and some of your followers that cannot understand the circumstances of living in Dominica and not the children understanding the circumstances of how they must bring up themselves and their children better than how it was yesterday, and you keep doing that all the time. What do you expect the average man on the street to do when you give them $500 and say, but you give me nothing? You don't give me nothing because you know if you ever give me, I'm going to put it into good use. Not chaining my neck, not this, not that. Mr. Scary, please. Come to the Windsor Park, where the people, or come to Q95 because Matt put his things together so long. Matt put so many things together. You know what I mean? And up to now, you haven't come in, but you go to another radio station. Sending bullets. Let us everything closing. Check us out. Let us ask you one, two things. You and Mr. Blackmore, the Minister of Security, and we can question. Do like Mr. Blackmore? Isn't Mr. Blackmore afraid? Mr. Blackmore not afraid in his ass, you know. You know, he's showing us, look this, look that, asking this. So we can start with closing. Have a good day, a good night, but come.
All right, thank you.
Heaven is on the tier.
Are you telling Erwin come back home? Matt, I just see Erwin come from the dock. Erwin boss, well braced. You want Erwin to come down Dominica to run tourists and then he will leave the pub with 2 tourists? You must be crazy. Hello?
On your right. Get up. Stand up on your right.
Well, I just brought 2 young people to Antigua and they finished school.
Don't give up the fight. Get up. Stand up on your right.
I just want somebody to present to me some data. I'll try to find it myself. Of the employment or unemployment rate in Dominica.
Most people think great God will come from the sky.
Something doesn't make sense. Doesn't add up.
And make a heavy life behind. But if you know what life is worth, you will look for yours on earth. And now when you see the light, you stand up.
Somebody says, now the only place in Dominica, this Dominica State College graduate students getting jobs is on the massive chain of businesses. And was there a shortage of Dominican truck drivers for Dominican Strong? And the airport, also Dominica has the most engineers from American universities. So where are they? Where are they? Where, Mr. Delville, tell me where are the engineers?
You're sick and tired of the ism, schism, game, dying and go to heaven in Jesus' name, dog. We know when we understand.
Some 800 people from Clare Harbor was sent home just a few weeks ago.
Now we see the light. What we gonna stand up for?
Somebody reminds me, a young, qualified, highly qualified doctor returned to Dominica and applied to the PMH. He was interviewed and shortlisted. But when it was realized, that he had UWB connections, he was never employed. This young doctor was recently called to work as a doctor in Barbados. See?
Keep us loving on. Yeah. Sick and tired of the ism, schism, game, dying and go to heaven in Jesus' name, dog. We know when we understand. Almighty God is a living man. You can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. So now we see the light. What we gonna stand up for?
On the telephone, hello, talk to me, yes? Our final call, yes? What you say? Hey, Mr. Suki, how you doing, sir? Thank you, my final call, yes.
I'm just being entertained by a lot of parliamentary shortcomings. I am actually saying, and I am concluding that if such be it, because I totally detest all what have been said there. If such be it, and being so vibrant as the Prime Minister felt, why not accept a debate? Why not be a questioner televised for us to be able to question you? Because for once, I am saying that if you give any consideration to the word legacy, you would have acted differently. And basically, there's a lot of questions I need to ask you in person, because to what it is very discouraging for the youth to see how accumulated wealth that one can accompany and make themselves accustomed to at such a short period of time. It is very discouraging for the good updated technocrats with qualification. So, qualification in the world, in this country, to be a politician, so I would not want to elaborate on this at this particular moment, but you fell short of that significantly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are in serious times. And that's how we wrap it up for the afternoon. Mr. Suki Herbert Winston wants a debate. Let's present the facts so they can be cross-checked. Good afternoon, Mr. Suki Herbert Winston. Tell me, is it for me? Serious times.
All I can see around us is violence and crime. Full time for us to centralize, socialize, and realize. Let the sunshine throughout every day. Let the moon shine through the peaceful nights. This is them sun, them sun fall. but I don't really believe in the falling things at all. Cause life continues as it goes. If you really want to know the truth, the truth isn't being told. No.
Somebody said the Prime Minister should send them to the DLP office in Vegas. There are lots of rooms in the inn, lots of room in the inn, huh?
Full time for us to centralize, socialize, realize. The little sunshine for us every day. Let the moon shine through the peaceful night. This is heaven's time rise and heaven's time fall, but I don't really believe in the.
Somebody's asking another question, Matt. The Prime Minister would tell us if he's a minister and his cabinet has a company that provides engineering services to the airport. That's a question.
This long time you think it's peace and safety. It could be a fraud, sudden destruction. See you wake up this morning, you better give thanks. You don't know if you're gonna live to see tomorrow. Life is much more precious than gold. Yeah. And if the truth hasn't been told,
I'm just saying, let's collect the data, huh?
serious times.
We just can't speak off the cuff. We need some real black and white figures. Dominica, this is it for me. I'll be back on the radio if God is willing tomorrow. This is the Talk on the Block.
See on the corner, I show you I ain't out on the corner. I see a try find me, see I want on the corner,